Hi again, my name is Kristen, and we are here with Simple Surrogacy to answer some questions for you. That is a really good question because a lot of surrogates want to make sure that their rights are being protected in the contract as well as the rights of the intended parents. So we ask it several different times in our program about what items you would want to have in your contract, and we help you to understand typical terms and fees that you'll want to see in your contract. So the first time that we do that is when you first initially apply to be a surrogate with us, we're going to send you what we call our surrogate mother agreement. And that's going to describe all the common fees, the common payments, what compensation is in your area, what you can expect to request for that, and then any other things that you might want to consider when you're looking at doing your contracts, like have you had a C-section before? Would you need a C-section fee or lost wages after you deliver? And so the first thing you'll see is those items laid out in the surrogate mother agreement so that you can review what common things are in there. And then when you're completing your profile, we'll ask you to again review what are the standard fees. And if there's anything that you need to request that's different than standard, we ask that you indicate that on your profile so that intended parents are aware of that difference when they're looking at your profile to match with you. Some things that you might need to request that are different than our common fees are, let's say you have 5 children, and so you know that your childcare expenses are going to be slightly higher than usual if you were to be put on bed rest. We would want you to put that in there on your profile so that we're aware that there would be a greater expense there for intended parents. Or let's say, for example, you live way out in the country, and if you needed housekeeping, it would cost more because they have to travel to come to your house. So that's something that we would want you to indicate on the profile. Or let's say you're doing a natural birth and you would want to have a doula. That's something, again, that we would want you to indicate on the profile. So when that profile goes out to intended parents, they're going to see those requests being slightly different than what the standard compensation is, and they'll be aware of those. So there won't be any surprises when you get to the actual legal contracts. So once you've actually selected intended parents and you've had your match call and then you're matched, the next thing I'm going to send to you for your approval is called our pre-screen agreement. And that's going to contain all of the financial terms of your later on contract. And we ask that you review that closely, send us an updated pay stub so we can make sure your wages are accurate in that contract, and then we ask you to sign it, indicating that you agree with all those terms and that you've asked for anything additional that's not standard in there. We understand things can happen later or some things can come up and change, but we really try to get everything in there up front before the intended parents pay for your screening so that they're not surprised later, because it's surprise expenses that can sometimes break a match, and we definitely don't want that to happen. You'll get your contract, which will be drafted by the intended parent's attorney, and then you'll review that with your attorney. And so at that point, that'll be the final stage where we make sure everything that you're looking for from the pre-screen agreement is listed in the contract and that all the items are correct, because that's the document that we're later going to use to make sure all of your things are paid for. The short answer is yes. When being a surrogate, especially through Simple Surrogacy, we're really a surrogate-based agency. I'm a previous egg donor, and my partner Stephanie is a previous surrogate, and we come at this with the point of view of really wanting to take care of our surrogates and egg donors throughout this whole process. So one of the things that we want to make sure of overall is that you are not out any money in this process. That means you should not be spending your own money on anything. That means you shouldn't be out of lost wages. You shouldn't be not being reimbursed for buying Tylenol at the grocery store or a pregnancy test. All of those things are worked into the contract in one way or another to make sure that you are not spending your own money in helping someone else to complete their family and have a baby. So how lost wages works is if you miss work for the surrogacy, for the screening, we would ask that you submit a pay stub online to the escrow portal and list the hours that you missed. And we're going to look at your pay stub and we're going to calculate the net after-tax wages. So lost wages are always reimbursed after taxes, not before taxes, because taxes always go to the government, so that's not money you would receive anyway. So what we do is we take 3 pay stubs from your last 3 pay stubs, and we average that cost. So let's say you worked overtime on one or you missed a day on another one. We want it to be an average of your last 3 pay stubs to be reimbursed. So that would be reimbursed to you for screening, for the transfer, and obviously for the delivery. And if there was any bed rest, or if you were told that you couldn't work during the pregnancy, we would want to make sure that all of that is paid so you're not losing money. The short answer to that is no. Your name will not be on the baby's birth certificate. In fact, you will have no legal relationship to the baby after the birth. In Texas, where we do a lot of our surrogacies, and in other states where we also work, the situation is that the parents will get a pre-birth order before the baby is born. The pre-birth order basically states to the hospital whose names are going to go on the birth certificate, and it's not the surrogate's name. So you don't have to worry when you deliver the baby that you would have any legal obligations to the child. The child will not be in your insurance. The baby's bills will not be in your name. All of those things will be paid directly by the intended parents and run through the intended parents' insurance. So that's all the questions I have for today. Thank you so much for your time. Please hit subscribe below and drop us some more questions so we can answer everything you need to know about surrogacy. Bye-bye.